Hey everyone, it's Austin Solomon, the Solomon Group at Coldwell Banker. Welcome to this week's episode of the Real Wausau Real Estate Show. Today I'm joined by Cody Hoeslcher. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on. How are you doing?
Oh, it's fantastic. It's great to have you on the Real. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Fire away, Cody. What does people need to know about the man behind the mic?
Yeah, so a little bit about me. Been in real estate for 3 years now. I do it full time at the moment.
Yeah.
Really have enjoyed it, learned a lot over the 3 years. Just joined the Solomon Group, our team here last October.
Yeah.
And it's been a really good time so far.
Almost a year.
Almost a year, which is hard to believe.
Yeah, unreal.
It seems like just last month I joined the team, and here we are almost a year later, and it's been a phenomenal experience, and I've really been able to take my service that I give my clients to the next level, which is, the whole reason I joined the team. So It's been a phenomenal experience.
Well, you've been helping out a lot of people, so it's amazing. Tell us a little bit about what we're talking about today. I know we're talking about home inspections and how to handle them, but dig into that. What's the important things that people need to know about how to handle a home inspection?
Yeah, so the topic of home inspections is actually a really interesting one, especially in the market that we're in today, because roughly about 70% of the homes that actually close, the winning offers, don't have a home inspection.
Yep.
And I would say about 50% of the offers that are received on the home, have one or don't have one.
Yep.
But again, about 70% that actually win and close don't have it.
Yep.
So if you're dealing with a situation as a buyer where you do happen to get a home inspection, kind of consider yourself lucky, because that is not how the market is moving right now. It's not the winning recipe.
Right.
But, there are still homes that do sell with home inspections.
Yep.
And if you happen to find yourself getting one, that's great. I think there's a couple of big important things to touch base on. The number one thing that I would say starting out is to have realistic and fair expectations for your home inspection. Mm-hmm. That's where things can kind of get dicey, especially if you're a first-time home buyer, or maybe you're not, super handy. You might go to purchase a home built in 1920 and find that there's a pretty big laundry list of items that come up on the home inspection, versus if you buy a home that was built in 2010, you're probably not going to find a whole lot of things.
Yep.
And it doesn't mean that the home built in 1920 is a bad home or that it's in horrible condition, but really it's a matter of the standards that we build with today didn't exist 100 years ago. Mm-hmm. And some of these things aren't a big issue, right? So typically when we have a home inspection on an older home, there's going to be some things related to some electrical defects, plumbing things, and just the way that the home is built that today aren't considered acceptable. And it might not mean that the home is a bad home. It might not mean that it's in bad shape, but you just have to learn how to decipher between what's a big deal and what's not a big deal. And that's important because in this market, even if you get an accepted offer on a home, other buyers might still be looking at that home and seeing it in person, and they can, in theory, put a secondary offer in. And so, if you put an offer in, you get an accepted offer, that's great. But if the secondary offer is better than yours,
yep.
Your negotiating power for inspection items is going to go out the door.
Yep.
So just have realistic and fair expectations. And kind of what I'm really pointing to is, don't major in the minors. Mm-hmm. Kind of some of the stuff.
Let's back up just a second there, because I think you brought up a good point. Like maybe it used to be back in like 2017, 2018, once you get the house under contract, you're like, oh, I'll go high on price, but I'll really get them with the home inspection. Like that used to be a mentality.
Sure.
The old classic like bait and switch. Like I'll go high price, but then I'll renegotiate after the inspection.
Right.
But that doesn't work anymore, because like sellers know, like, hey, we had 5 other offers. Like, if you're going to go, crazy on the home inspection and be unreasonable, we'll just go and make a couple calls.
Yeah, exactly. And put it back on the market and get it under contract within a few days.
Yep.
I think that to put some context of exactly what I'm talking about, major issue, minor issue here, right? The major issues you want to look out for in a home inspection are the foundation, the structural areas of the home, the mechanicals of the home, and the electrical. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Little things are going to come up. For example, they didn't have stair code in 1920. So a lot of older homes have narrow stairs that are pretty steep. And it almost always comes up on an older home inspection. And I've actually had buyers request that the stairs be redone.
Yeah.
And, from the perspective of the sellers, they're not even going to bother with that.
Right.
Something like that is very, very minor. You just have to have those realistic expectations. Same thing with a lot of older homes, right, were built before GCFI code, 3-prong electrical code.
Yep.
2-prong electrical in an older home is not a big deal. Missing GCFI outlets, those can be taken care of by an electrician in a matter of an hour or two and at a really reasonable cost.
Yep.
So, just when you're going into that home inspection, just keep in mind that there's going to be some minor things, but big picture, right? Is the foundation good?
Yep.
Are the main electrical components good, right? Do we have an updated service panel? Do we not have any knob and tube wiring? Things like that.
Yeah, knob and tube. Knob and tube can get a little interesting when you have, 2-prong that's quite a bit older, and then it's knob and tube. That might be more concerning than, just a 2-prong that's, wiring without a ground. Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, leave that to the electricians. But yes, I know exactly what you mean, and I think the audience does too. Yeah.
Yeah. And I would say too, it's perfectly acceptable to ask for a repair to be done. It's perfectly acceptable to ask for a credit, right? Things do come up, and as agents, right, we're there to represent you and get you the best deal that you can, and make sure that you're taken care of. And so, if some things come up on a home inspection, right, and let's say that there's some minor electrical things and you want to ask for a credit, say of $500, for example, that's the best way to approach it. But, if you come into it with a laundry list of items and you nitpick every little thing from that inspection, that's when things kind of get a little awkward between buyer and seller, right? So, but sellers, I think 9 times out of 10, they're more than open to working with you on reasonable items.
Yep.
I mean, I've personally never had a seller get mad about some minor things that we asked for a repair or credit on, as long as where we're coming from is reasonable.
Correct. Yep. Yeah, the reasonableness is huge. Exactly. Because if you go in unreasonable at first, then you just tend to bring out the unreasonableness in the seller.
Yep. Exactly. So I think those are kind of the big things, right? And as first-time home buyers, it can be kind of daunting having, these things come up on a home inspection. But just remember, again, at the end of the day, that we as agents, we do this every day. This is our living. And so we're there to help you out and guide you through the process and really give you our expertise. And at the end of the day, we want to take care of you and we want what's best for you. So definitely listen to the home inspector, but do take our opinion and our advice into consideration. It will make the deal, be a lot smoother and likely close without issue.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, well, thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of The Real. Cody, thanks for joining us, and glad that we got a little bit of a debrief and, just a little enhancement on home inspections and how to view them well.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me, Austin.
You
Always
bet.
a pleasure.
Hey, you bet.